Hello dear friend, welcome back to another review video. Today's collection was submitted to me by a follower of mine called Makayla Grady and is called Glass and Diamonds. So let's dive right in. As always, we're going to start with the cover and formatting, etc. This is the cover, a nice bright white cover, which I myself have used in the past. It's got a nice little illustration at the top. It's got like a gloss finish, and I'll just read the blurb. Quote, "I'd run to the sun if it would mean that one day love chose to love me. This is the story of a girl with skin of glass and hair of gems. The love and loss of a girl who was fragile and broke when love left her. Lost and abandoned. In the details you'll find a portrait of that girl's happiness and pain. Then you'll find how she learned to put herself back together again." And then it's just got some reviews. A masterpiece. The author uses poetic verse in this manuscript to explore the emotions that accompany love and heartbreak. Okay, so let's take a look at the formatting inside the book. I noticed there aren't any page numbers in this collection, which I did miss. I'll be honest with you, I think page numbers are important, as well as no index. I really want to see index pages in collections these days. It just makes life so much easier for the reader and of course for the reviewer as well. So small point, but not massive. I have to say I really like the font in this book. It's neat like a Times or a Garamond. It's neat and formal like that, but it's also kind of stamped like a typewriter effect. So if anyone knows what font is used in this, please do let me know, because I really do like it. It's nice and neat, but also quirky, and I like quirky. There are also pieces of prose writing scattered across this collection. Again, just because we're looking at formatting, it's not a major thing, but I did notice the first bit of prose in the collection, the spacing is really large. And a little off-putting, but to be honest, as you get to the next sections of prose writing, that is dealt with. So maybe that just went under the radar through the when it was going through the editing process. But again, you know, I'm just being nitpicky here, just so people can learn and so I can try and be helpful in some way, I guess. Also, in terms of formatting throughout, not just the prose, but it's more noticeable in the prose. If something, if a piece of text goes on to the next page does start really high up on that page. I think it needs to be lowered a little bit. I know I'm nitpicking, but I receive a lot of messages from people saying that they learn a lot from watching these review videos on how they want to design their book. So I'm going to leave this in. It's not a massive issue at all. But I'm going to leave it in because people want to learn, I guess. But yeah, it's not. I'm not saying that I hated this collection for it. I'm just saying it's there. And so, lastly, my final point on the formatting. I really love the illustrations in this collection. They're such a breath of fresh air for me. They're completely different to the kinds of illustrations you see in 9 out of 10 poetry collections these days. My favourite one probably being this. I hope you can see it and it's not too exposed. It's saying it's really overexposed, but hopefully you can see it. One thing I will say, I was really disappointed, not through any fault of anyone's. I think it was just a printing issue, or it might be done this way, but some of the most detailed illustrations, again, I don't know if you can see, especially this one. I love this one, but it's a little faded. I don't know if that's a printing issue because the lines are thin, or if it's designed that way. It could very well be designed that way. But yeah, I really love the illustrations here. Very, very nice. The first thing I want to say about the poetry in this book is that it's perfectly simple. And to be clear, I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way at all. I think that it's very important that a poet makes their work accessible to the masses and not laborious to read. Okay, apparently I got some construction workers going on around me. I'm sorry if you can hear that. I really need to just get a soundproof studio, don't I? Let's carry on. Sometimes we can get so caught up in making our poems, and I include myself in this, making our poems come across so profound and artistic that we lose sight of the point of the poem in the first place. And by doing so we lose our readers because it comes this really overbearing what's going on poem, if you know what I mean. Makayla's are definitely accessible because of their simplicity, but there is a downside to that. It's my opinion that I think a lot of the poems here are too far on the simple side of things. As poets, we should be looking to find balance between profound, holy crapness and simple, accessible, easy to read. It's very hard to do. Another small issue I had throughout this collection, but I was able to overlook it because let me be clear, I enjoyed this collection, were the simple rhymes and metaphors. For example, with rhymes, I can read from the blurb again. I'd run to the sun. It just feels like an obvious choice to me. Maybe not to everyone else, but I'd run to the sun. Just feels a bit overdone. In terms of obvious metaphors, I'd like to use one example, but there were quite a few. But here's one that stood out for me. And I cannot break the ice. My crush is crushing me like the Titanic. So linking ice with the Titanic has just been done over and over and over again for over 100 years since the Titanic sank in the first place. It's been so overdone that I feel that this metaphor didn't have the impact that I have no doubt the poet feels inside of her, without trying to be horrible. And this, my friends, is a perfect example of why we need to be careful when using cliches and overused expressions. Also, another issue that I had with that sentence was the repetition. Now, as we all know, repetition can be such a powerful tool in poetry, but I think we have to be careful when we repeat the word twice, as soon as Makayla did in this sentence. My crush is crushing me. I think that there could be a more experimental way of putting that. Also, and I really apologise to Makayla for this. I don't mean to rip her apart by any means. As I've already said in this video, I did like this collection, but we're all here to learn, right? Myself included, I'm still learning. And I want to take the time to express another little learning curve for some people, which is we have to be so careful with the vocabulary that we're using. And this might come across really petty, I understand that, but we're all striving to be great poets, and if you really want your poems to be knocked out of the park, I think is the saying. God, I sound so old. Then you have to be this petty. So I could be wrong here, and if I am wrong, please school me in the comments down below, because, you know, if I'm wrong, then I need to be corrected. But it's my understanding that the Titanic wasn't so much crushed as it was spliced, or if that's a word, sliced, torn apart, maybe even gutted, rather than crushed. All I'm trying to say is that we have to be incredibly particular with the words that we use, because sometimes you might get a reader like me who knows a fair amount of about the Titanic that would be that would read that and get taken right out of the reading experience because you think, well, that's not accurate. I know it's petty, but I'm trying to help you be the best poets you can be. Side story, I've actually touched the largest piece of the Titanic that's been brought to the surface with my bare hand. I think it was this one, but it could have been that one. Illegally, of course, but that's a different story. Let's move on. Another thing about the poems in this collection, I'd really like to see a lot more use of punctuation. I can see that Makayla's taken time to really try and craft these poems, and I don't say try as in with a negative sort of implication at all. We all try to craft our poems. It's up to the reader to decide whether we did a good job. All I'm saying is I think that a lot of time has obviously been spent over these poems, and I think that punctuation really would have taken it to another level and helped Makayla in her efforts. And so what is my final verdict? I know that I've completely contradicted myself throughout this entire video. Her poetry is brilliantly simple, and I mean that, but it also leans a bit too far on the simple side. What the hell do I mean? I don't even know. Overall, I enjoyed this collection, but with this review video, I did intentionally be picky, because I feel that Makayla could hopefully watch this and learn from my feedback and smash her second collection, because I do see massive potential in Makayla's writing, and I do think that anyone watching this video should consider purchasing this book. Did I just stutter? If you're just getting started in the reading and the writing of poetry, then I would actually go as far to say that this is a must for your shelf. There's a lot for you to learn in Makayla's simplistic and innocent writing, and I don't mean that in terms of the themes, but the writing itself. It won't feel overwhelming or condescending as it might if you were to jump into a collection by, say, Thomas or Eliot. I'd also recommend the book to all poets, if they can, to study how Makayla writes in such a simplistic way and yet retains her reader's attention. Again, I liked the collection, I read it all, and I was interested, which says a lot considering I read a lot of collections these days that can't hold my attention. A very solid first collection by Makayla, and I invite her to go even deeper, be even braver, and smash the next one, because I'm sure that she will. That's it for this week. If you're a poet and would like to submit your collection for me to review, there is actually a download link for all my information on how to do so in the description down below. One thing I will say about that though is please do take the time to watch my other review videos so you know what my tastes are. I don't like putting out bad reviews. I have had to do so in the past, so try and figure out what my tastes are so that we can both have an enjoyable review experience. If you decide that you still want to send your collection to me, I will always post fair and honest reviews, because my followers rely on that honesty to make an informed decision of whether they want to read the collection or not. So please bear that in mind. If you'd like to get your hands on Glass and Diamonds, as always, I'll leave a link in the description and probably a pinned comment. Before I go, I am going to read one poem that I really enjoyed whilst reading this. And until next week, my name's Adam Gary and I chase stardust. Madness. 3 clicks and I fall into madness. Suckled teeth choked beneath a bitten tongue. I should run, I should run, I should run. I see the dribbled blood, the dripping sun. See the guts, the things untouched. And so much more than I should have seen. I should leave, but I don't. My feeble knees and toothpick bones dig themselves into a hole. revelling in the dirt, the crumbs, the cuts. My eyes are glued to the wreckage, though they tear apart at the veins. My rips and stitches bursting at the seams, and there are no screams, just the rustling of the wind, carrying the scent of decay into my ears and hair, and it is there that I get my first taste of madness.